Welcome back to the podcast. It has been so long, which was not my plan, but I have missed this so much. I think my last episode was in October of 2025, so it has been a few months, and I didn't really want or expect to do that, but it's just kind of how things went down, and it's okay. I think I have this problem where I put consistency of everything on this high pedestal. And I'm still digging into that with God. Like, where does that come from? I don't really know. But like, if I break any sort of consistency with anything, I immediately feel guilt. I feel shame. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know. I have all these crazy thoughts that come to mind when I'm not consistent with something. And so I really struggled with that with this podcast because we had a hard couple months, just with family stuff, personal stuff. Our girls were sick, and yeah, it was just really rough, and I was so down on myself. Like, why can I not be consistent in this? Like, there's this person that has all this stuff going on and they're consistent. Like, why am I not consistent? And I just had all of these thoughts and all of these things. And I'll be honest, I'm not at a place where I have all the answers with that, or where I have like the root cause of where that thought is coming from and why I feel that way. But we're just being real. We're having an open and honest conversation today. That's my plan to move forward, is to be even more honest and even more vulnerable with you than I have been. It's really easy for me to be mostly vulnerable, if that makes sense, but then hide a little bit of things. And I just want to give you all the things. So that's where I have been at. I really want to do a whole podcast refresh. Like, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I've been brainstorming a lot with a friend of like changing the name and changing the image of the podcast and just switching things up. And I've really been inspired. So I've been dealing with a lot of anger as a mom. Really hard. Really hard. I don't know. Sometimes I don't recognize myself truly, and that's a whole story for another time. And something I want to record a podcast all about that. But I have really been in that season of trying to figure out like what the heck is going on and why I have all this anger and all that sort of thing. So I talked with a friend about it, and she sent me this podcast. It is literally so amazing. If you are a mom, I just 10 out of 10 recommend this podcast. It's called the Not So Angry Mom Podcast. And it's just so good. And I've just listened to only a few episodes, but what really intrigued me from like a podcast, as someone who also does or has a podcast, is she didn't really have an intro or an outro. She wasn't putting in all of these fancy things, and it sounded like she didn't even really edit. Maybe she did, but all that to say, it really intrigued me and challenged me to think like, wait, what if I switch things up a little bit with my podcast? Because I feel like I have felt this pressure just from listening to other podcasts that this is what you do and this is what you have when you're on a podcast. You have an intro and you have an outro and you edit it well and all of those things. And I was doing all of that and spending so much time doing all of that. And it kind of took away from the fun of it, if I'm going to be honest. And I know that all of it is not going to be my favorite part, but I would end a podcast episode and be like on cloud nine. That was so fun. I love doing this. And then it would come time to editing and I was dreading it. because I mean, a 20-30 minute podcast episode could take like hours to edit. And so I was just like, man, what if I just don't edit? And that sounded really scary, I'm not going to lie. But I'm here to tell you that we're going to try that. And that is going to be a little bit of this podcast refresh. Is we're not going to have an outro, and we're not going to have an intro, and we're not going to have editing. You are just going to get the full scoop of everything, all the flaws, all the pauses, all the ums that I say, which I feel insecure about at times. And you're just going to get all of it, because right now I want to give you the content and serve you with that and have these conversations. But right now in this season of our life with two littles, we just really don't have, I really don't have the capacity to put in the time for all of those things. And so I was like, well, why don't I just try not to? And so that's kind of what we're going to do and what we're going to try, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm really excited about that. I just wanted to give like a little reintroduction to myself and our family, kind of what's been going on the past few months. There has been so much. If you have kids, you just know that so much happens in such a short amount of time. But all that to say, I'm going to reintroduce myself, give you a little background on me and our family. So I'm a wife of my husband, Tony. We have been married for, this year will be 4 years, which is really crazy to think. It has gone by so fast. Yeah, I feel like we have known each other forever. Like, it feels like we have been together for 20 years. It feels so crazy to be married for almost 4 years. We have 2 little girls, Noah and Eden. Noah is our oldest. She is 2, and Eden is about to turn 1. So we are going to have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. We are super involved at our local church here, and we love it so, so much. My husband, he serves on our worship team at our church, and he is also on staff at our church. He does a lot of like audio production, lighting, a little bit of everything, but mostly that sort of thing, which I know absolutely nothing about. And, I serve on our kids ministry right now, and I love it so much. Like, kids are just so fun and so joyful, and I feel like at times in life when I get so serious, they really just, I don't know, they just are silly, and I just love it so much. So we are involved in some groups at our church. I'm leading a moms/Bible study group this upcoming semester, which I am super, super excited about, because I've been with these women for 2 semesters now. So this summer will be a year that we have all been together, and we have done different groups together, but it has been just like our little core group, and it's been so fun to see them grow and love Jesus. And we've had so many good conversations and so many just really good questions about theology and the Bible and Jesus and all of the things. And I swear, like, the longer I am a Christian and doing this walk with Jesus, I feel like I have more questions than when I started. I feel like I know less when I started. So that has been such a thing. But yeah, that group has been so special to me. And yeah, I'm really excited. We're about to do a freedom group this upcoming semester, and it is just a really specific, special group that absolutely changed my life years ago. So I can't wait to do that with them. Let's see, what else? I'm a little crunchy, a little holistic. I have swapped to cleaner products for years now in our home. I've been on that journey for, I guess, 5 years now. So it sometimes overwhelms me, if I'm honest, and I have to be careful to not let fear lead that. It can be very tricky. It can be a very fine line with that, where I feel just, okay, I want to swap all the things and I want to do better for our family and for our health, to, okay, I don't want anything toxic in our home, and I don't want our girls to get sick because of this or have hormonal issues because of this. And I can easily go to that other side. And so, yeah, it has just been a balance with that for years now. We've swapped a lot of cleaner products. We've swapped a lot of cleaner foods, but we still have toxic things in our home. So it's been one step at a time, is what I try to tell myself and what I try to tell other people. But that's a big part of our life. And I also work as a nurse. I forgot about that. I work as a nurse at an outpatient surgery center. I love my coworkers. We have the best team ever. I get to be in the operating room, which is so, so fun. And I love that so much. So that is a little bit about our life right now. It's kind of crazy. I often feel really overwhelmed, like very quickly, very overstimulated. I get angry very easily. Like one minute I'm fine, and then the next minute it's like something happens and it sends me down this rabbit hole of anger and frustration. And yeah, it's been really difficult as a mom and as a Christian, as a believer, as someone who loves Jesus. I've just had so many thoughts, but again, we're going to go into another episode about that another time, because I really want to dive into that a little bit more. So we will save that for another time. Yeah, I love Jesus. That's something about our family, is going to church is really important to us. That is a non-negotiable thing that our family does every single Sunday. We serve in our church. We love on our local church. We are involved. It's family to us, really, like truly. We see our church family more than our actual biological family, which is funny. But we just love them so much, and we're just trying to do our best, Tony and I. We really are. Our families were not really Christians growing up. So we didn't really grow up in a Christian home, is what I want to say. So I grew up going to church, but I wouldn't say that I grew up in a Christian home with, my family members believing in Jesus and following Jesus and loving Jesus with their whole heart. And that's the same thing for Tony's family as well. In fact, he was the first one in his family to go to church, and it's been really cool to see other family members on his side of the family come to church after he did. And he kind of, obviously through the Holy Spirit, but him leading his family in that way has been really cool to see. So we're figuring a lot out, and I'm sure that's every parent. I'm sure that is every family. They feel the exact same way, whether you're a Christian or not, whether you believe in Jesus or not. But yeah, our challenge has just been, what does it look like to raise our family to love Jesus and follow Jesus, but we are also loving and following Jesus. So that has been, it's our goal for our children to love and follow the Lord. And obviously, like, we want that for all of our children, our marriage, our home, all of the things. And it can be really challenging. It really is. When you have grown up a certain way, your childhood was a certain way. Granted, I think that, we can always make choices, when we are older, and as an adult, like, we have the ability to choose different, and we should be challenged to choose different than how things were when we grew up. But it can be really difficult if some of those things were really drilled in us, whether that's like a certain thought pattern we have, or just mentality of the world, finances, our home, whatever it is. There's so many of those things that as you're raising a family and having kids, man, it's hard because they bring out all of that stuff in you, all of the stuff that is deep within you that has been hidden, the selfishness and the pride and the wanting things our way and the interruptions of life, like it all gets brought to the surface. And I think it's a really hard and beautiful thing that God has created within a family, that those things are brought to the light and, they get to be exposed, and we get to choose, like, hey, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to choose the same pattern that we've always known that's unhealthy and toxic and ungodly, or are we going to choose different? So we're challenged by that every single day. I'm challenged by that every single day as a mom, as a wife. And let me tell you, I get it wrong literally every single day. Every single day. I might get it right a couple times during the day, but there's so much that I fall short on, in or on, however you want to say that. And yeah, that's just me being honest, and that's just me being real about that. I don't like to fall short. I like to be perfect. I like to have it all together. I like things to, I don't know. Yeah, just be more perfect. I like to be perfect. And so I have to constantly remind myself that that's not the goal. It was never the goal. And it's not realistic because Jesus is the only perfect one. And so, yeah, just constantly reminding myself that. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a family update, a little reintroduction to me and our family and this season of life. It has been just absolutely insane. Like, if you have littles, our girls are 17 months apart. And if you have littles, you just know. Even if you don't have littles and you probably have other kids, teenagers, maybe they're older, maybe you don't have kids yet, like, life definitely comes with its challenges. But just speaking to motherhood right now, oh my goodness, everyone is just into everything, and there's a lot of no, there's a lot of I do it, there's a lot of independence, and just trying to figure out, oh my gosh, like, how do I respond to these things in a godly way, and encourage them, and encourage them in a way, like, of how God created them, but just helping them and guiding them along the way. So, for example, Noah, I would say, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I don't have another toddler to compare it to yet, but Noah seems to be very strong-willed. Very strong-willed. Like, she wants things a certain way. She wants things her way. And I'm sure some of this is toddler behavior, but it really feels like it's her personality. And I could easily look at that as a mom and be like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I just have a strong-willed child. My life is so hard. She's so hard. She's so difficult. All these things. But I really want to learn to speak life over our kids when I'm talking to myself, when I'm talking to other people about our kids and about her. And, so I've really been trying to look at that, like, that can be a really good thing. Like, if God made her to be strong-willed, to lead the way, to not care what other people think, there are boundaries within that can be really good for her. And if he created her that way, like, I want to help her become that, but in a healthy way, if that makes sense, and in a respectful way. And in a way that's not this independent woman, I don't need no man, I don't need no Jesus, none of that. Not this, like, worldly independent perspective that women have, but this independent, like, I don't need other things of this world, but I do need God. And I know that, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's just like a little example I just thought of at the top of my head. as a recent example of just, motherhood and the challenges of raising littles. Something I've learned recently too is, and something I just wanted to share with you, and maybe I'll put these in the podcast, going forward. I don't really know, but just maybe something recent that I've learned, or something that has, I feel like God is speaking to me right now. I feel like one of the most recent things that I am learning is how important our prayer is. Our prayers are. And I read this book. I'm still reading this book. What is it called? Oh my goodness. It's by John Mark. I think it's Comer. Sorry, I'm sipping my coffee. What is it called? God is so good. No, God has a name. God has a name. Oh, so good. It's a little over my head in a theological way, but I'm fine with that. I'm fine with being challenged a little bit in that way. He talks a lot about, God has a name. It's Yahweh. And he goes into like just the Hebrew history, all the theological stuff surrounding that. So I would highly encourage it though. In it, he talks about how prayer, like our relationship with God, is a relationship. And I think for me personally, up until this point, which I'm a reborn Christian since 2020, so it's been almost it'll be 6 years this year in April, October, whatever, kind of that timeline. But he talks about how it's a relationship, and I've always heard that and have said that, like, I'm in a relationship with Jesus. But a relationship is a two-way street, and I think up until this point, when it comes to like my prayer life specifically, I have talked to God about things, but I have had this view that because God is sovereign, which means he is just in total control of everything, ultimately there is, and not in a negative way, in a good way. Like, he is over all things. He is the God, the one and only God. No matter what our life looks like, circumstances look like, he's God. He's on the throne. He loves us. He cares for us. He is just. He is righteous. He is all these things. He is sovereign. And I think because I've thought about God being this sovereign God where he already knows, it says in the Bible that I think it says that he's the beginning and the end. He's the Alpha, he's the Omega, because he sees the whole picture from literally beginning of when he created everything in Genesis to the very end, when everything in the end times happens, which I don't know a lot about, so don't ask me right now. But in between all of that, he sees everything, and that he has a will for our lives and for the people in this world. And so I think because I had that perspective, I was like, I can pray, but it's not really going to matter, because God's ultimately sovereign, and God's ultimately in control, and God's ultimately, like, whatever his will is, that's what it's going to be. And so I could pray, but I'm not really sure if it's going to change things. Does that make sense? And there's a lot I probably do not know. In fact, I could tell you I don't know about. There's different wills when it comes to, I don't know, just God and the Bible and all the Christian things when it comes to all of that, which I don't know. And I don't know how that all works, and I'm not really sure if I ever will. But something I have learned even through scripture is that we can change God's mind. And me reading this book, God Has a Name, that just absolutely has shifted my perspective so much with God. And just my prayers, that I'm not just like talking and it's not really going anywhere. It's not like going in the sky and just kind of like floating around up there. Like, this is me actually talking to the one true God, Yahweh. And it's like, if I picked up the phone and I'm talking, and it's back and forth, it's not just this one-way street. And I could change his mind. Like, if I said, hey, I really, really want this person to be saved. I am begging you for the salvation of this person. That could change things. Maybe that wasn't the best example. I don't know, because I don't know how the whole salvation works, so to speak, as far as I know we choose God through faith and grace alone. That is not by works that we get saved, but I do think after we get saved, because we love God and because we care for God and because we are following God, we do start to develop the things of God and the ways of God, and that's by loving him. It's not coming from a place of I don't know. I think sometimes it probably comes from a place of like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do, and our desires and feelings kind of have to catch up a little bit, but ultimately, like, it is out of this love for God. So maybe that was not the best example, but all that to say, I'm just saying that prayer matters and prayer can change things. And I want to read something to you in the Bible. It's in Exodus chapter 32. And it says I've actually been reading more of the Old Testament lately, and the Old Testament, let me tell you, used to intimidate me so much, and it still does in different chapters or different books of the Bible, I should say. Like Leviticus, I just have no desire to read that. But anyway, so this is in Exodus, which is supposedly written by Moses. It's the second book of the Bible, supposedly written by Moses, and it's when the Israelites, I believe, were delivered from Egypt, and they're in the wilderness, and they're in there a long time, and God kind of just tries to keep pointing them back to him, but they kind of want to go off on their own a little bit and choose other gods, little g gods, and all these things. And so that's kind of the short Cliff Notes version, I would say. But anyway, so Moses is leading these people, who is a guy that he had murdered someone before, or killed someone, I should say, in the Bible. He was born Hebrew, I guess. Is that the right way to say that? He was born Hebrew. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he grew up with Egyptians. And so now he's leading these people out of like where he grew up, which is kind of crazy. And he's trying to lead these people, and I think they're being disobedient. And God's like, okay, I think it's time to kind of reset things. People are being disruptive, they're being rebellious, they're being all these things. And Moses is talking to God, and verse 14, it's in chapter 32. It says, "So the Lord changed his mind about the terrible disaster he had threatened to bring on his people." And that might sound a little harsh, and I would encourage you to dive deep into that, and we can talk about that on a future episode as well, of just like the goodness of God, maybe why it seems like there's two different gods. That's not good theology, but there's this angry God in the Old Testament, and then there's this kind Jesus in the New Testament, and we can talk more about that. Even though I feel very underqualified, I'm happy to share at least my perspective and all that stuff. But all that to say, it literally says, so the Lord changed his mind, because of Moses begging him, praying to him. I don't know exactly what it looked like, but that Bible verse really encouraged me, like, oh my gosh, Moses, this guy who sinned in all sorts of ways, who felt very underqualified to lead these people. He literally, when God asked him to lead these people out of Egypt, he's like, are you sure you got the right guy? Like, I am not good at speaking. I stutter. I can't lead these people. Like, I think you have the wrong person. And God's like, no. And he believed, in Moses, and he believed, obviously God worked through Moses, but the whole thing is just crazy to me, because even after all of that, this relationship that they had, Moses talked to him and changed his mind. And that seems so powerful. Like, the God of the universe, the God that has created literally everything, who is almighty, all powerful, all knowing, all of the things. How you're telling me that I can change his mind? Me, Kayla, and you can. Like, through prayer, we can change God's mind. And that's just been really powerful to me lately, and just really, I don't know, just really eye-opening. It makes me want to pray different. It makes me want to pray more boldly. It makes me want to pray for the things I have prayed about for 5 or 6 years now, that I am just getting tired and weary about praying. All of those things, like, I can still change God's mind, and again, I don't know how it all works with, God's ultimate sovereign will and all of those things. I don't really know, if I'm honest. I'm not here to come at a place where, like, come at you and talk to you in this place of like, hey, I know all, this is it. I'm not trying to come at you or talk to you, from that place. It really is a place of like, hey, I think this could be something, and here it is, and you dive more into it. Ultimately, I've said this in other podcast episodes, like, I can share and encourage you in these episodes within this podcast, but ultimately, like, go talk to God and go read your Bible. Because I'm going to get it wrong, and I'm going to get it wrong a lot. And I'm sure if I listen back to this podcast in 5 years from now, I might be like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? Because that was not even theologically or biblically correct. But I don't want that fear to hinder me from sharing what I believe to be true right now, if that makes sense. And so, I'm going to wrap up this episode. I hope this encouraged you. My goal here, my hope is to just serve you, encourage you, point you towards Jesus in every way, and just also be very real about life and about motherhood and about challenges of all of the things. And so I'm so thankful that you tuned in. I'm so glad that I'm back, and I can't wait to share more with you in the next episode. Okay. Have a great day, friend. Bye.